Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, iRacing fans from around the world, welcome to a very special event brought to you by KMA Racing and KMA TV. I am Scott Kolovic, your announcer for the evening. Joining me in the booth is my co-announcer, Ronald Klein. How are we doing, Ronald?
Doing very well, Scott. Thanks for asking. Bright and sunny here at Talladega. Looks like it's going to be a good race. Got a nice field of cars. Can't wait for action to get underway.
And it is a super speedway, so we're going to be seeing that super speedway action. Now here, Ronald, within the summer months, Saturday night, fans are out there doing things with their families and whatnot. But I tell you what, I want to give a big shout out to our family. A couple of our family members are actually out there in Indianapolis tonight, not able to join us because they're sitting over in Indianapolis. We have got Brad Ream, Darren Reason, and Greg McClendon actually meeting in real life for the first time. So how cool is that?
That's pretty cool stuff. A couple months ago, you, Edward Bray, and myself got to meet up in real life. So thought that was pretty cool when that happened. It's always nice to see when other drivers get that opportunity to meet each other as well.
Going to be a very good night out here tonight. All the drivers looking over that field are very good, top-notch drivers. They know what they're doing. Edward Bray's out here. We've got Chris Hoke, Richard Brose with Richie V's Pizza, Jack Watts representing Southeast. But do you think they're going to make it caution-free tonight?
There's a good chance we could go caution-free tonight. I never like to say yes, and I never like to say no. So just kind of one of those deals. We'll have to wait and see.
Qualifying fairly important out here on the super speedway, but things can just go either way, left or right, on these speedways. Drivers are finishing up their qualifying laps as we speak. Gary Whitmer Jr. joining us out here tonight. I want to give a big shout out there to Mom and Dad Whitmer. Hoping to see Gary Sr. out there joining us on that track before too long.
Absolutely, Scott. And I hope that we've got some exciting stuff coming up. Some things for the fans, some things for the drivers. Becky Whitmer won a couple of items already. I'll be getting those out to her shortly. So it's going to be interesting.
Awesome stuff. Out there in that front row position is Richard Brose with a 53.410, side by side with Edward Bray with a 53.444. Lynn McNeese tonight starting in second position. Gary Whitmer very front of the field tonight. Good start for Gary Whitmer Jr., the fourth place position. And fifth place belonging to Kerry Allen Stewart. Black Talon Lee Staples sitting in sixth. My good friend Joel Guy in seventh. Mark Jackson back there in eighth. Big shout out there to some fans out there of Mark Jackson. He's got his son, his granddaughter, and Mama Patty and Kristen out there on that KMA TV chat. Colin Bauer sitting back in ninth. Matt Cook, position 10. Jack Watts representing Southeast, position 11. Paul Pellizier in the number 12 spot. You and I shown as grid. Not going to happen tonight. Kevin Scott Nelson back in 15th, side by side with Lee Ryerson. Danny Rudy and Chris Hogue in the rear of the field. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there is your qualifying order. Richard Brose taking on that pole position on that inside lane. All right, inside or outside on this speedway tonight, Ronald?
I like the outside, Scott. That's where the traffic moves. That inside lane, can be good towards the end. If you got a good group of guys behind you, it's a good way to secure a top three position. But if you want to move, if you want to move forward, if you're in the rear, if you're Kevin Scott Nelson, Paul Pellizier, Joel Guy, Mark Jackson, those guys are going to want to be on the outside lane. That outside lane is usually the lane that moves and pushes. It pushes the one car up front and in front of the next car, and it's a continuous cycle of cars that continue to to cycle to the front until somebody, on that inside lane is able to push the leader, so to speak, on the inside lane better than anybody else. And or opposite case, somebody that's not very comfortable gets behind the guy that's out front in the outside lane and can't keep the pace there.
Good information right there, ladies and gentlemen. Getting ready to go. Green flag racing here for 100 laps at Talladega. Looking at some of these paint jobs tonight as we do roll around this 2.66 mile track. And we got a good view of our pole sitter tonight, Richard Brose, located out of Dothan, Alabama. Richard Brose, the way that Mama Leone would have made it. And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Wife actually hates it when I say that. I don't know why. I enjoy saying it. And tonight these drivers are going to enjoy speeds up to 194 miles per hour. Very quick lap times out here. This is the biggest speedway. Now I understand, Ronald, you got a little bit of information there about Talladega.
Yeah, Talladega was born in and around the 60s. It hosts 2 events every year. Obviously they're both 500-mile races. I'm gonna save some of that information for our trivia and some possible prizes being given out. So I don't want to give away too much, but we'll talk more.
Alrighty, copy that. We do have a long night. Taking a look at Gary Whitmer, showing his support and the support for PAD as well as RTK Motorsports. Now this is really cool right here, Ron. The view that I've got it, we're looking at the windshield of Edward Bray, and we keep getting a look at his jumpsuit. He's got he's like a skull helmet. That truck was designed by Gearhead Paint Shop. A big shout out there to Ted Immenizer. But I tell you what, just another one of the fun things that you can do out here with iRacing. Not only do you get a race, but you get to do some painting. You do a little bit of painting. John Hedrick with Over the Top Paints and Design, he does a lot of painting. So just really cool. And Edward Bray, oftentimes a big winner here on these super speedways. Right now looking very good position in position 2.
Yeah, Scott, it is pretty interesting, pretty fun to mess around and paint your vehicles. And I recently have done some fire suits and helmets, and I haven't gotten quite to anything like what Edwards got there with a skeleton or on his visor, basically. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Sometimes jumping through, and you'll see some guys do have custom painted fire suits and helmets, so it's pretty neat.
Mine myself is a skeleton suit. Believe it or not, me and the skulls. I know, but mine's basically is black with red bones on it. Looks pretty cool, but I don't have anything for my inside helmet there as Edward Bray does. But what I'm wondering right now, if the number 84 Little Smoky of Lynn McNeese has anything for Edward Bray side by side. I had asked you earlier about inside or outside lane, and right now on lap 3 they're up to full speeds, they're running their fast laps. Doesn't really seem that either line can break away from the other.
I think Gary Whitmer Jr. is being very cautious. He doesn't want to cause an incident. There was a chance there just a quarter lap or half a lap ago now for Edward Bray to possibly make a move down. It looked like he was changing lanes, and Gary Whitmer Jr. could have stayed on the back of him. But what happens is you get this tunnel vision, and you tend to follow the truck in front of you, so you're not sure if he's pulling down, if he's staying on the track. You kind of lose orientation because of everything that's going on. You're watching so many things and you're thinking about so many things that he backed off just slightly, so he knew when the 66 was actually changing lanes, and unfortunately for Gary, Edward wasn't clear, so Gary's giving him a pretty good hard shove right now, hoping to get him out in front so he can probably cool that truck off. If it doesn't happen, then Gary will probably just have to let off a little bit and allow the truck to cool. It looks like right now, yep, Gary Whitmer Jr. did get the number 66 out front, so now Gary gets a chance to cool down and see if the rest of that outside lane can continue to push forward.
Gary Whitmer being extremely patient out here, but on the flip side of that, once you get out there on that front line, you got to be aggressive to stay out there on that front line as well. You do not want to drop back there to what I refer to as the hornet's nest, and right now, Len McNeese and the number 56 of Kerry Allen Stewart, they're in that proverbial hornet's nest right there in the middle of the traffic.
And right now, in being in Gary Whitmer Jr.'s shoes is where you want to be. You have one of the best pushers in the business. I've continued to say that. He knows where to push, when not to push. Everybody can make a mistake. I'm sure he has, and I'm sure he will make mistakes, but Gary Whitmer Jr. is down on that inside, and it's going to be really, really tough for anybody on that outside lane to get around those two trucks on that inside now.
And I tell you what, Ronald, you got to be very proud of Gary Whitmer Jr. like I am. He's a teammate here with KMA Racing, but he's also on that sub-team of RTK. He is always showing his support out there for PAD, for RTK, for KMA Racing, for KMA TV. Mom and Dad did a fine job raising up Gary Whitmer Jr. And I tell you, you just got to be so proud to have a member of that caliber representing RTK.
Absolutely. I know that's the second time I've used that word tonight, but I try to only use it when it really counts, and I had to say absolutely there because he's everything that you described. He's very patient, he's very understanding, he's a very clean driver. He represents himself, KMA, and RTK Motorsports in the best possible fashion. So I am very lucky to have him on my team. I enjoy having him on my team, and we'll continue to get closer and closer, and as that happens, our relationship will become more like Brad Ream and myself, because Brad Ream and myself, we were together a lot longer than Gary has been on the team. So he brings some of the best stuff to RTK Motorsports, though.
And cannot forget about Chris Hogue. Chris Hogue, our daily poster, keeping us involved and informed as to what we're going to be doing on any given day of the week. So a big shout out there to Chris Hogue representing RTK. Now, we were talking about Edward quite a bit. We also need to talk about Lee Staples. Edward Bray and Lee Staples forming a little sub-team as well called Black Talon Racing.
Yes, and they work as well as, probably as well, if not better than any other sub-team out there. I do know the Max Velocity guys do help each other, but when it comes down to it, the Max Velocity guys, I guess I shouldn't say that because I don't know for sure, but I think the Max Velocity guys I don't think that they're as dedicated to each other as these sub teams are, because Max Velocity is a larger group of drivers, so you can't really focus on helping one or two driver, whereas like Edward Bray and Lee Staples, they're the only two teammates. Now they're going to help KMA out no matter what, but when it comes right down to it, if Edward Bray has a chance to get to Lee Staples, that's going to be his priority.
Well, and I don't get much to race anymore, but I've got my favorite drivers. Well, Cody Lipster. They used to call it the '69 and the '96 show. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and part of the deal was that as KMA did advance, we've got the league out there, which does consist of 280 plus members. Then we've got our basic inner guys, which we've got like 60, 70 guys that really try to be a part and make our races when they aren't busy with other things. And then we've got the Team KMA, which is about, I would say, 15 of what I would call my core drivers, and that involves Edward, that involves you, that involves Joel Guy, as well, Kevin Scott and Nelson. Got a whole bunch of friends of KMA, and then, as you mentioned, you've got the sub-teams there, which consists of your personal favorite drivers that you like to run with.
Correct. Field's starting to spread out just a little bit here, Scott. Kind of surprised that it's not the typical Talladega that we see. Drivers seem to be being very patient. Nobody really wants to risk a whole lot at this point, Well,
so, we do have 12 drivers out here tonight, and those back three, we're looking up at it from the blimp mode. They're not in danger of losing that pack quite yet, but it does seem that the top 8 are more so on a run. And then starting with Joel Guy there with 87, Richard Brose, Kerry Allen Stewart, Paul Pellizier. Now, Paul Pellizier, he is the driver that is in jeopardy at this moment because he's not got a pusher.
Correct again. I've said it before. If you're the last guy in the pack, you're driving harder than anybody else on the track. You cannot afford to make a mistake. And by a mistake, it could literally be just lifting for too long. If he lifts for too long and he sees that gap in front of him grow, it may be too late already because he's lost too much engine RPM. By the time he gets that engine back up to full song, those guys will have start driven away, and then there's going to be drag, and then there's just no fixing.
Truck in the wall,
4 wide for a second. He does save it. We're going to stay caution free. Going to see if I do believe that was Edward Bray. Going to see if Edward Bray is going to be able to. Looks like Edward Bray is going to have some difficulty hanging on to the pack. He may end up losing the draft. Not sure. Maybe somebody will come back for him. If not, could turn out to be a long night for the number 66 as we go 3 wide in between turn 3 and 4. The number 14 taking it 3 wide had a run on the car in front of him, and the cars are all scattered out. Now this will work out very well for Edward Bray actually, because the 3 wide will actually slow these trucks down momentarily. So this may give Edward Bray a chance to regain his momentum and get back up towards that field. If he can get one of those trucks in the back there of Kerry Allen Stewart or
Paul
Pellizier to just give him just a little bit, he could possibly catch back up to this pack.
He is catching.
I don't have the ability to have the relative up, so I can't tell, but visually it does look like he is slowly starting to gain back on them. Moment there.
I tell you what, while you were calling that action up front, I was able to go back and take a replay look at what happened to Edward Bray, and it looked like I didn't catch the driver's number, but somebody got into the rear end of him just barely, and it sent him wiggly squiggly. So I want to give Edward Bray a big shout out for keeping that Chevy Silverado in control. But right now, with the comparison, it does indeed look like Edward Bray might be back to losing the draft of Kerry Stewart. Kerry Stewart, all he needs to do is back off of it a little bit, and that inside truck back off of it a little bit, and lickety slick, they'll be right back up there.
Yeah, and especially with it being Edward, he can push. He'll get you back up there. With Kerry Stewart dropping down, that might give him the ability to suck up to the back of that truck now. does look like Kerry Stewart intentionally may be dropping back here.
Now, it could have been Kerry Stewart that got into Edward. I will not say it was or was not, but that would be the right thing to do, indeed, if it was. But again, don't verify me on that one. But Kerry and Edward hooked up. Now, all they've got to do is get up there onto the rear end of Richard Brose and push Richard Brose up there to Paul. Paul's side by side with Joel, and they'll be right there with that pack.
Now I get to cheat a little bit because I got dual radios going on again tonight, so I do know that it was the number 14 that got into the back of Edward Bray.
That would be Colin Bauer.
Yep, I'm hearing it over the radio, the on track radio, so I do know that it was the number 14, and he has apologized. So it's unfortunate, but it happens out here. You know that, Scott. You know, even with a smaller field, it happens. So the good thing is we're still caution free at the moment, and most of the trucks are still in the main pack. The other guys that are behind are not too far behind. Looks like Edward Bray is going to be okay. No issues with staying back on the back of the pack here. So
looking at the number 56 of Kerry Allen Stewart onto the rear end of the number 31 of Paul Pelizier. Big shout out there to Paul and that paint job, showing his support for the teachers and the students. All right, Ronald, you have kept me in suspense long enough. I want to hear a little bit of trivia out here on lap 19 of 100.
Okie dokie. So a while back we had talked about the first race at Talladega. But what we didn't have was the first actual, what we would consider the Cup race. It was a Grand National Series race at that time, but we would consider that a Cup race. So September of 1969 was the around the time frame when these races happened, and someone won the first race. It was the Bama 400 Grand Touring race. So the question is, who won the first Bama 400 Grand Touring race at Talladega Superspeedway?
That one there, I do not have the clue, but I bet we've got some fans out there that do. Big shout out to the fans on the KMA TV chat. Kristen Phillips, Mama Patty, Mark's son and his granddaughter out there rooting on. Mark Jackson right now on lap 20. Mark Jackson leading his sixth lap of the night. Good job, Mark.
All right, so this this trivia question is just for the fun of it, but since we're 22 laps in, and I'll announce this as we go along, by lap 75, get your race winning picks in. Pick the driver who you think is going to win by lap 75, and I will send you a KMA Racing or KMA TV / KMA Racing sticker.
Stickers?
Yep, I got a shipment of stickers in. They're about the size of a credit card. They're a little bit smaller than I thought, but they still look pretty cool. I know you got a picture of them today because I sent them to you.
Uh-huh.
So you know they look pretty cool.
Awesome. I thought they looked absolutely awesome, and I want to thank you for doing this. All right, we can actually say we've gotten into some merchandising.
That is kind of true, actually, but
That
we
is
won't
cool.
be selling them yet. Right now, we're just going to be giving them away. So, once again, by lap 75, get your race winner, who you think's going to race, who's going to win the race. And if you are correct, like Becky Whitmer was the other night,
Repeatedly.
I will send you we have 4 different stickers, actually. I will send you my choice of stickers. And if it gets to a point where you guys play the trivia too much and pick the race winners too often, we may have to expand and get some different stickers. But for now, we've got 4 KMA Racing, and I'll have 2 RTK Motorsports stickers as well. So that'll be 6. So I think it'll take the fans a while to get a collection of all 6 stickers, Scott.
Nice. Awesome. All right, out there on that KMA TV chat, Kristen Phillips may have an answer for you, Ron.
Alrighty. There we go. So that must be her pit.
Mark Jr. and Angel.
So going back, we'll repeat the trivia question again. Who won the first race, being the Bama 400 Grand Touring race at Talladega Superspeedway? Now you know this, Scott, because we broadcasted what we thought the first winner of the racetrack was Richard Brickhouse. That was the answer that we got the last broadcast, but that was actually the second race held at Talladega Superspeedway. So I'm looking for the winner of the first race at Talladega Superspeedway. The race was the Bama 400 Grand Touring race.
Caution free on lap 25 of 100. Driver's doing a great job out here tonight, running a fast lap of 48.705. Gary Whitmer, his last lap of a 49.619. That is a fast lap.
And we're going to be coming up on some green flag pit stops here pretty quick, Scott.
They are roughly 4 laps away. On the top side, maybe 6 if you're back there in that draft, able to save a couple of laps here and there. But you're absolutely right. Going to get it up into Chopper and Blimp, but we're going to be seeing some green flag pit stops very soon.
With the pack being the pack of cars, the pack of trucks being as small as it is, I don't think you're going to see too many people straying away from pitting with everybody else. You might see 2 different packs of cars go. I don't think we'll see any more than any more breakup than that.
But I tell you what, by the way, check the KMA TV chat. Kelly Ryerson putting up a name. Pitting in this situation, though, it can be as dangerous as out here on the track at 194 miles per hour.
Absolutely. See, I like to use that word when it's really important. And I was doing such a great job. I haven't really been saying that very often. Tonight I've said it 3 times already.
I tell you what, when I started out, my word was definitely this and definitely that. So you're absolutely, definitely doing a great job. Talk to us about the danger of pit row.
The big thing is the braking point. And a lot of the drivers, they'll try to push it as hard as they can going in to pit row, wait to brake till the last second, get on the brakes, and that can create big time problems, obviously. I'm more of a kind of bring it off the track, kind of coast it for a few seconds, and then get on the brakes. And I'll get on the brakes hard at first, and then I'll whoa up. I'll ease up off the brakes, and then if I have to get back on them, I'll get back on them again. We've seen in races past where guys just come off the track too late, apply the brakes too late. They'll go, sliding right through the entrance to pit lane, go off in the grass, or even if they don't do that, they come across that line too fast and they get a penalty for it. So those are kind of the hazards. And then of course you got guys in front of you and behind you. You're putting your truck in their hands, hoping that they don't spin you out or get into the back of you when you're coming into the pit. So there's actually a lot more dangers to coming into pit road than we think.
Kelly Ryerson typing up Kenneth Rush.
And that is the correct answer. So score 1 for Kelly Ryerson.
Ding, ding, ding. Kelly Ryerson getting the first.
Hey, where's the bell? I thought you said you were.
I have not yet bought me a bell, but I'm going to one of these days. Gonna be sending my wife to the hardware store this week for some weed eater line and hoping that Menards will carry bells. But that is a hard item. I might actually probably ought to go to Office Max, I guess, to get my bell.
Yeah, some place that sells teacher supplies.
Nice.
School supplies. I guess you could get one of those little dinner bells.
Yeah, I could. All right,
Alrighty,
getting ready.
Yep, I'm getting it. I'm hearing it over the radio. 64, 5, 66.
Got the 64 into pit row. Edward Bray coming in hot. Contact with Joel Guy and Gary Whitmer. Gary Whitmer running over the cone as Joel Guy spinning to get back into shape. Ooh.
I'm staying with the leaders. Mark Jackson is currently leading.
Richard Brose missing his pit stop, having trouble. Well, there's the dangers.
That is exactly what I was talking about earlier.
Edward Bray, Lee Staples out, green flag. But of all those drivers, we had one collision between two drivers, one driver missing it altogether.
All right, here we go. Second round of pit stops. The rest of the trucks are coming in right now.
Six drivers going in.
Looks like no issues with this group of trucks. They got on clean. I can't tell speed-wise with all the cars if they were all under speed by the time they hit pit road, but I can watch and see if anybody gets held on pit lane.
We've got those cameras on the end of pit row. Seeing drivers taking right sides. Drivers pulling out. A lot of smoke out there in pit row. And away goes Mark.
Now, I just saw Len McNeese come in. I don't know if he stayed out or if he had to come back in. I won't have that for you for quite some time here. Gonna have to wait to see how the field cycles and what happens and where everybody ends up.
Alrighty. Now, here we're going to give it a minute here, and we're going to update our running order. But right now, for the time being, we've got Mark Jackson and Jack Watts out there. All right, Donald Stewart out there on that KMA TV chat, rooting for Lee Staples. All right, here we go. There is Angel. That's why I was confused. I want to give a big shout out there to Mark's son, Mark Jr., and the granddaughter, Angel. And I tell you what, I've seen pictures of Mark Jackson. He just took a 14-hour road trip to pick up his darling granddaughter, Angel. If that's not love, I don't know what love is. So Angel out there along with Mark Jackson's fiancee, Kristen, along with Mama Patty and his oldest son, Mark Jr., out there rooting on Daddy. Pretty cool.
That's very cool, Scott. As it looks like the leader is Mark Jackson, but it looks like Lee Staples and Edward Bray were able to, through the pit cycle, were able to come out and stay near whatever. They are right there with the leaders now. So we have a 5-car pack.
Now, what'll be interesting is Mark and Jack are on the same radio frequency, and they are one lap of fuel to the good over Edward Bray and Lee Staples, but I'm not so sure by that calculation that's really going to be a factor out here tonight as Colin Bauer goes up to join the Black Talon Racing line on the outside on lap 33 of 100.
Alrighty, as we run through the field, I'm running you through the field real quick here. Going Lee Staples, Mark Jackson, Edward Bray, Jack Watts. That's all too close to call. Colin Bauer. Then you got another pack of cars. The number 56. of Kerry Allen Stewart, the 224 of Kevin Scott Nelson, and 31 of Paul Pellizier. They are 5 seconds back, almost 6 seconds back. Then you've got Richard Brose and Len McNeese, 17 and 19 seconds back. And then you have Gary Whitmer Jr. With Len McNeese currently, unfortunately, 1 lap down, and Joel Guy ended up 2 laps down because of that incident on pit road. So that, unfortunately, you know, when we were talking about the dangers of pit road, that is exactly where this stuff can come and bite you.
Richard Brose dropping down behind Little Smoky, the number 84. But don't believe that Gary and Len are going to let up to allow Richard Brose to catch on to that draft. He is Len McNeese right now 20 back, Richard Brose 21 back. I'm not thinking that Len is waiting for Richard Brose. That gap is widening.
Yeah, it would be smarter if they did, to be completely honest, because 3 cars are faster than 2, but you just, you know, you don't want to give that up. But it would probably be smarter if you did, you know what I'm saying?
3 wide action up in the front with Edward Bray. Not for competitive reasons. Edward Bray getting hot, allowing the number 14 of Colin Bauer to swap positions with Edward Bray. That's going to slow down that inside lane just a little bit, but give it a lap. And Lee Staples will once again be side by side with the number 3 of Mark Jackson. Now, Jack Watts is not going to have that luxury. Right now, Edward Bray, Lee Staples, and the number 14. We're going to see the number 14 and the number 66 doing swapping along with the 64. So you got 3 trucks against 2. Down there on that inside lane, we're seeing Jack Watts sliding off the right side of the number 3 Mark Jackson, and off the left side, he's trying to cool. Jack Watts just not having the option to really do a swap, because if they do a swap with 2 trucks, that third lane, it could very possibly run away on them.
Well, the good part about it is it's such a small pack. Even if the outside lane does outrun the inside lane here, which is completely feasible, Jack Watts may not want to push very hard on Mark Jackson. At this point, it really wouldn't matter much. They could easily just, you know, back off a little bit, let those 3 cars get in front, and just ride back there and save fuel and wait for the next pit stop.
Big shout out to the fans on the KMA TV chat. Now we know that Kristen Phillips is rooting for Mark Jackson without a doubt. We've got Donald Stewart out there. Donald Stewart has made his pick. Pretty sure Gary Whitmer Sr. is going to be rooting on for Gary Whitmer Jr.
We see the number 14 duck out of line there. He must have been getting warm. I wouldn't imagine any other reason for him to duck out of line like that. So he must have been getting warm pushing on the 64.
Taking a look at that second pack, we've got Paul Pellizier, Kevin Scott Nelson, number 56, and the number 91, Kerry Allen Stewart, and Joel Guy.
Yeah, so Joel Guy has found himself a place to be, I guess.
Joel Guy is running 3 laps down. Right now, very reliant on that lucky dog. I do believe we could go caution free tonight. Now, if that's going to be the case, that's going to be unfortunate for the drivers wanting to get that lucky dog position. Gary Whitmer, the first driver, a lap down. Gary Whitmer, 2 laps down. But he would be the first driver to get that lucky dog if that caution does come out. but I'm not seeing it happening.
I don't see it happening either. I mean,
Bi-
there
big-
is a chance. There is a chance just with the drivers, especially in my opinion. Here's where I think it could happen. It could actually happen to Gary Whitmer Jr. or Len McNeese because they're pushing as hard as they can to not go. Len is going to push not to go a lap down. Gary can't afford to go another lap down. Joel Guy, Kerry Allen Stewart, Scott Nelson, and Paul Pellizier, it could happen there because they're going to want to push as hard as they can to try to make up the distance that they've lost. Now, they're already 9 seconds back. We talked a little bit ago. They were 5, maybe 6 seconds back. So they've lost 4 seconds. So they're essentially just kind of riding, so to speak, right now. They're not pushing. When they realize how far off.
Whoa, there it is at 64. Goes for a ride.
But is that going to bring the caution out? I don't see a caution yet. No caution. No caution, Scott.
All right, well, we are reviewing that replay either way it goes, but we have Lee Staples down on that inside lane. Mark Jackson. Ooh, goodness sakes. Going to back that up one more time. Very uncharacteristic of Mark Jackson. Gets down just onto that inside, but Lee Staples going for a ride. No caution was sprung.
Alrighty, Scott. I'll be back to join you momentarily as part of what we're trying to accomplish here in KMA. You know what I'm talking about. I'll rejoin you in just a minute, sir.
Copy that. Edward Bray on that inside lane. Colin Bauer with the number 14. Mark Jackson on that outside. Jack Watts on that outside as well. Jack Watts looking very sharp, representing Pad. All right, we're going to jump up into that blimp mode and survey our field. So we've got Edward, Mark, Colin, and Jack, positions 1, 2, 3, 4. Paul Pellizier, Kevin Scott Nelson, Kerry Allen Stewart, 11 seconds back, along with lap traffic. Lap traffic of Kerry Allen Stewart. All right, we're going to back that one up. Kerry Allen Stewart just going for a little bit of a ride right there. We're going to zoom into that on the chopper mode and see what happened. Joel Guy. Oh, there's that bumper hook right there as well. Now, that's the same situation just happened there with Mark Jackson. Taking a look at this under replay. Just a little bit of a nudge. And Kerry Allen Stewart going for a ride. But again, no caution. Very interesting situation right there. Joel Guy, Kerry Allen, almost the same situation for Mark Jackson and Lee Staples. All right, Ron, what are you thinking? Oh, number 3 in the wall. Number 3 in the wall. We're going to back that one up, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so we got that one there on camera. We're watching the number 77 of Jack Watts pushing Mark Jackson. And what happens here? Mark Jackson taking a right-hand turn straight up into the wall. Not sure. There was no contact there with Jack Watts, but Mark Jackson up into the wall, throwing some sparks, bringing it down off that track. And Mark Jackson heading into pit row. All right, back up to the race leader, Edward Bray, Colin Bauer, and Jack Watts. Wow, that was pretty eventful little 10 minutes right there, Ronald.
It was very eventful, Scott. Unfortunately, our field is completely scattered at this point. We have a 3-car pack up front with Edward Bray leading. And now we have 2 cars, Joel Guy and Kerry Allen Stewart, just pulling out of pit lane right now. Then you've got Gary Whitmer Jr. and Len McNeese just out in front of the leaders by, a quarter of a lap, maybe a straightaway at most. And then you've got Lee Staples running sixth after that spin. Gary Whitmer Jr. and Len McNeese are going to swallow him up here pretty quick. They're running about 189, 190 miles an hour right now. And Lee Staples is only managing 179 miles an hour. So they're going to swallow him up.
Big shout out there to Becky Whitmer. She's a lady we have been waiting for. Going to get a little bit of trivia out there for Becky Whitmer. But going to give Becky Whitmer a update. Going to take a quick look at our running order. We have Edward Bray, Colin Bauer, Jack Watts up there sitting in positions 1, 2, and 3. Paul Pellizier sitting back in 4th along with Kevin Scott Nelson. Kevin Scott Nelson in 5th. Lee Staples in 6th. Len McNeese back in 7th. Running with the lap traffic. 1 lap down of Gary Whitmer Jr. in position 8. Kerry Allen Stewart, position 9. Joel Guy out there running 5 laps down. Big shout out there to Becky Whitmer. Caution free tonight at Talladega.
I gotta think that there's got to be some. There's got to be something on the track. NASCAR's got to be. I mean, these teams got to be looking for ways to get NASCAR to throw a caution at this point, wouldn't you think, Scott? And they got to be searching high and low.
Right.
With all the incidents, there's got to be some debris out there or something.
Right now would be a really good time for a caution. But, you know, it's going to take a major wreck. Now, to give Becky an update, we did have 2 spins, but the caution was not thrown. It didn't interrupt any of the racing, other than we had some contact with Mark Jackson and Lee Staples. Lee Staples spinning out. And then we had contact with, I've done forgotten.
There's been a lot of contact.
But everything has slowed down. We have seen some green flag pit stops. We're going to be looking at some mandatory green flag pit stops here in about 9 to 11 laps.
The Joel Staples and Joel Guy and Lee Staples are in pit road. Very unfortunate.
So they're not there by choice.
I'm not sure if it's a product of the damage that they had, or if it's some kind of strategy to try to get. Not sure, Scott. Looks like Joel Guy is sitting on pit road, and it looks like I'm not finding the 64 car. Unfortunately, he may have taken it to the hauler.
Unfortunately, Lee Staples has indeed taken it to the hauler, as has Mark Jackson taking it to the hauler as well. So, interesting turn of events out here tonight. Edward Bray, Colin Bauer out there on that front line. Jack Watt still in it to win it. Edward Bray leading 13 laps. Lee Staples had led 12. Mark Jackson had led 19. But such a simple situation as a spin. All right, I tell you what, we're going to take about 60 seconds, and we're going to do some KMA TV 4x4 commercials, and we'll be right back with you folks. Big shout out there to Pro Automotive, Blaze Pizza, Pad, People Against Distracted Driving, and Gary Whitmer, GW Graphics, being the fella behind the scenes on every one of those commercials. Big shout out there to Gary Whitmer Jr. Alrighty, how about throw a little bit of trivia out there and see if Becky can do as well as she did tonight. We've got Kelly Ryerson out there doing pretty well, getting our first trivia question absolutely correct.
Alrighty, here we go. Since it is Talladega, the movie Talladega Nights, who wins the race, the final race? At the end of the movie, who wins the race? And I'll make it multiple choice. Is it Ricky Bobby, Cal Norton Jr., or Jean Girard? So, the movie Talladega Nights.
You know, I remember that movie, but I cannot for the life of me remember the winner. But it had Will Ferrell, I think, in it. Is that correct?
That is the correct movie. It had Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. Those two were teammates earlier in the movie, and then they were not teammates, and then they help each other out in the end. Blah blah blah. So, anyways,
great movie, though. Great movie.
I thought it was fun. Kelly Ryerson dialing up saying Ricky Bobby. That is incorrect. Ricky Bobby did not win the final race.
Now, see, that would have been my guess. Because the only thing that I really remember about the movie was a Ricky Bobby. So, I don't know. I'm anxious to see who actually won that race then.
Time will tell, Scott. We'll see if one of the fans can get it. I'm a huge fan of all racing movies. I watch them all, so I don't know. I just thought it'd be a good one since we are at Talladega, even though it's a movie and it doesn't really pertain to real life racing.
Well, that's the first time we've stumped those fans in 3 days, I'll tell you what. Days of Thunder, another good racing movie there with Tom Cruise. I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan, but Days of Thunder, very well put together. But I tell you what, these guys tonight, talking about a well-oiled group of guys tonight, we're caution-free, and I do believe we're going to go caution-free all night long here. This pack has severely broken up. We're on lap 56 of 100. Should be looking at some green flag pit stops with our race leaders in the next 4 laps.
That is correct, Scott. It's unfortunate, the incidents that have happened. It has severely broken up the field, and it's made it, I hate to say this, but it's virtually made it a 3-truck race. So,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, in the movie Talladega Nights, who was our race winner? It was not Ricky Bobby. Ronald, can you run through those multiple choice one more time?
Okay, so was it A, Ricky Bobby, B, Cal Norton Jr., or C, Jean Girard? No, Jean Girard was the guy that drove the Perrier car, or however it's pronounced, and he was the
snooty driver.
Yeah, the snooty driver. So he was Ricky Bobby's nemesis. So out of those 3, now it's down to 2. So you got a 50-50 chance of getting the answer right.
Colin Bauer, Edward Bray, positions 1 and 2. Colin driving the number 14 Haas CNC Chevy Silverado. Out there in the distance, though, we are looking at some lap traffic that Edward Bray is going to be coming up on very, very quickly.
That would most likely. I don't have the ability. Well, I probably have the ability if I jump down into a different view, which I can do here.
Donald Stewart guessing the French guy.
That would be incorrect as well, so now the answer is pretty much free.
Alrighty, so we stumped the fans tonight. Was not Ricky Bobby.
So if you remember, if you think about the movie, if you watch the movie, remember Ricky Bobby and the French guy, they wreck each other. So they both get out of their car and they run to the finish line, and Ricky Bobby gets there first.
You're right. I remember that now.
Okay, but after that, they come
All right,
and
green
say,
flag. Colin Bauer, Edward Bray, green
Yep.
flag. Okay, we're riding up there, up on the tailgate of Colin Bauer. Jack Watts going in as well. Green flag pit stops. Take us through pit stops.
Alrighty, I'm actually sitting with Jack Watts, so watching Jack Watts. He's going to swing it into his pits, brings it into his pits, doesn't slide it across the line. He is getting left side tires, while Colin Bauer gets right side tires, fuel, and they're away. Edward Bray elected for right side tires and fuel, and he is away.
Edward Bray, better boogie.
Yeah, it could be a 2-car breakaway at this point.
And keep it down below that yellow line, Mr. 77. We got rules. All drivers following those rules, keeping her down below that yellow line. Jack Watts, I think, might actually be lifting for Edward because he knows that 3 is more than 2 and 3 can go faster than 2. And they're still going to have to make another pit stop along about 90. Or 70 if they short pit. Jumping back up to Paul Pellizier. Paul Pellizier, Kevin Scott Nelson, teammates with Kicking Asphalt, going into pit row. Keeping it on, University of Michigan, 224. Kevin Scott and the number 56 in pit row as well.
And we got the number 5 and the number 84 coming to pit road as well. They seem to make it on cleanly. Not sure about speeding or anything like that, but like Joel Guy has retired from the race, probably watching from the sky.
Well, that'll give us a chance to. Joel Guy is 17 laps down, so want to make sure that he is indeed down, catching up with race leader Colin Bauer.
So anyway,
How about it, Joel Guy? Have you got a copy?
I got a copy on the Scott.
Are you done racing?
Yeah, I'm done tonight, Scott.
Okay, well, hang out with us. All right, go ahead, Ronald. What you were saying.
I was just going to finish. So remember, in the end of the movie, the French guy, Jean Girard, and Ricky Bobby, they run across the finish line. They dive, or, in dramatic fashion, they dive, and Ricky Bobby ends up, beating him. But then afterwards, because all the cars were taken out, they say because Ricky Bobby and Jean Girard got out of their cars, they broke the rules, which made the third place guy who actually wrecked out was Cal Norton Jr., and they award him the win.
Nice. Becky talking about how she's never seen Talladega Nights. I think it's called Talladega Nights, The Legend of Ricky Bobby. Is that correct?
It's something like that.
Joel, have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, it's a good movie. All right, nonetheless, Joel, you're out for the night. Had to take it to the holler. You're 19 laps down. Been a caution-free to the naked eye. It's been a great race. Talk to us about the reality of the situation tonight.
Well, the racing was good. I parked it for mechanical reasons with my pedals, and I wish I could have stayed in it because I think it would have been a good race. We were having a little tussle, but we took care of it.
All righty, Donald Stewart, if you wouldn't mind, sir, remind us up here in the booth whom you voted to win tonight's race. We've got bumper stickers there on the line.
Yep, so we're on lap 65. You've got 10 laps to get your picks in. So Scott, Joel, I'll let you guys in on this. Becky, since you may not have heard, anybody else out there on the KMA TV chat, Donald Stewart had picked Lee Staples. Unfortunately, Lee Staples is out of the race. Gary Whitmer Sr. picked Gary Jr. So this is kind of tough because of the way that the field is right now. But I'm still going to do it because I said I would. Before lap 75, pick your driver to win the race, and if you're correct, I will send you a KMA Racing or KMA TV sticker.
Alrighty, and to help you make those decisions, we're going to take a quick look at our running order, and we're going to put it up in blimp mode so you can get a visual of where these drivers are. Out there on the front line, we've got Colin Bauer, Edward Bray, Jack Watts, positions 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, so Becky Whitmer just shouted out Edward Bray, so that takes Edward Bray away.
Kevin Scott Nelson and Paul Pellizier 15 seconds back in 4th and 5th.
Now, I'm just going to call my pick just because. I'm going to call Colin Bauer, but if one of the fans wants to call that, that's fine. I just think that he's in a good position right now.
Well, Joel, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking Jack Watts.
All right, well, I do believe it's going to be Colin, Edward, or Jack. But we've got some lap traffic up there involved into there, Ronald.
If they continue at this pace, yes, they will probably catch some lap traffic.
Race leaders, Colin Bauer, Edward Bray, and Jack Watts. Lynn McNeese in the Little Smoky number 84 running with the leaders, but he is 1 lap down. So, Joel, right now, I mean, nobody wants a caution to come out, but right now, Lynn McNeese needs that caution to come out behind him. And what will happen?
Well, if the caution comes out, Lynn's going to get the lucky dog, and the lucky dog's going to get to pass all the cars and come all the way around this 2.5 mile or 2.66 mile track and catch back up to the pack without having to race them for it.
Alrighty, so now we've got our second pick. Kelly Ryerson is saying Colin Bauer. That's leaving Jack Watts.
Well, I think that, yep. Well, Joel had picked Jack, but all right, fans, type it up there. Who do you think is going to win it tonight? We are caution free on lap 67 of 100.
I got to let the fans in do this one, Scott. You know what I mean?
Yep. 13 lead changes, 0 cautions, 0 laps. Colin Bauer leading 8 laps. Edward Bray leading 22. Now, at this point, Ron, how important is radio comms? Because I'm looking at the radio comms, and Jack Watts in a channel by himself there with Southeast, Colin and Ed and Lynn all on the same radio frequency. How important is that side channel?
Well, that's why I picked who I picked, Scott. Now, I don't have any effect on the sticker. Kelly Ryerson picked Colin Bauer, so if Colin Bauer does win, but Colin's got the help of Edward Bray right now, and that could change on pit stops if Edward makes it out in front, but Jack is the lone man out here, and Len McNeese is with KMA Racing. Right now, they're just trying to make as much time as possible. That's why they're 2x2. That's why they're pushing as hard as they are. But when push comes to shove down at the end, I would not hesitate to say that Len McNeese would drop down to the bump. If we were coming to the final lap right now, Len McNeese would probably fall down the bumper of Edward Bray and leave the 77 out there by himself.
Doesn't do much good for the proverbial phrase, love the one you're with. All right, Joel, I got a question for you, brother. Now, back on Monday, now we came out of New Hampshire. I want you to talk to me about the previous week. We had 13 cautions out there on Monday. We learned a little bit there on Tuesday. We had 9 cautions. And on Friday, the boys came back and had 2 cautions. And I was scratching my head. And I asked my wife, well, what was the difference? And she's like, well, they learned how to drive. Joel, same question. How do we go from 13 to 9 to 2 at New Hampshire?
Well, Tuesday night we had a quick, had to have a setup, so nobody really got a lot of practice. The setup for Friday night had been out since last week for the track, so people had a chance to practice with that car. And I think drivers actually did practice by themselves with that car, with that setup, and got accustomed to driving it.
And Friday, only 2.
And Friday, only 2 cautions.
Now, how are we feeling about moving on into Indianapolis next week, Ronald?
I think it's going to be good racing. When we've been there before, turns 2 and 4 have been problematic. So hopefully the drivers will get the cars the way that they want them, and especially in turns 2 and 4, and not overdrive them. It's very easy to overdrive those corners, spin it, or put it into the outside retaining wall, which will collect a lot of cars. But if the setups are right and the drivers drive the cars within the boundaries, I think we should have some really great racing there.
Hey, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Have y'all had your trivia for tonight yet?
We've had a little bit. Have you got some? Do you want to join the party?
Yeah, well, you remember what I was telling you about the other night?
Probably not. Go ahead and tell me again.
Okay. The trivia question is, what was Talladega before it became a racetrack?
I remember this, but I can't remember what it was. So there's the trivia. The next trivia question. Oh, now I just remembered. Yep. What was Talladega before it was a racetrack? All right, fans, we'll give you a couple laps to think about that. Do you know the answer to that, Ron?
Actually, I don't.
I do. I remember this now. All right, Donald. All right, Becky. Kelly Ryerson. Mama Patty and the racing fans out there on the KMA TV chat. We're asking you. We want to know. What was Talladega before it was Talladega Super Speedway? Green Flag Racing out here tonight on Slamming Saturday. Lap 74 of 100. They pitted in on abouts 30-31, abouts 60-61. We're 16 laps out of our next mandatory pit stop. But Ron, they could go into some short pitting. Tell us about how that short pitting stuff works. Here on lap 74, we're within our 30-lap window.
Short pitting just basically means going in and getting what you need to finish the race, whether that's tires. And in a place like this, there won't be any tires taken on the final pit stop. It's going to be a fuel only. They'll dial in how many gallons. They'll talk to the crew chief, find out exactly how many gallons they're going to need to finish the race. They're going to put that in, and then they'll be on their way.
Big shout out there to Becky Whitmer. All right, we got to clarify this question, fans. We're not talking about the name before it was named Talladega. We are talking about before the bulldozers even hit the pavement. We're talking about physically what was the area, what was the vicinity, what was, and there's Kelly Ryerson on that KMA TV chat, Ron.
I think that's the correct answer, but I don't know, so.
Well, she's saying, Joel, former Anna, that's a big word, I can't pronounce that word, Anniston Air Force Base. Is she correct?
She is correct.
Ding, 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 ding.
Air Force Base.
Nice. All right, good stuff. Now, Ron, I know you've got one more on you here. lap 76.
Yeah, I'm gonna come up with one that'll stump them here. Give me a minute.
I thought that one would.
Well, it stumped me when you told me the other night. Jack Watts out there in front, leading his first lap of the night, side-by-side action between Jack Watts and Colin Bauer. Great racing out here tonight. But Joel, what is the number 84 Little Smoky? Now, he is a lap down. You know, he's going to be a factor out here tonight. At this point in time, what is your attitude? Because nobody wants to see the caution, but I tell you what, he's only one lap down.
Come back with that, Scott. I had my crew chief in my ear.
Talk to us about the thoughts. Whoa, pit stops.
Leaders pitting.
Edward Bray, Colin Bauer, had him on camera. Nice. Boy, I get a cookie right there, Joel. Had those boys on camera, Edward Bray and Colin Bauer. And we got some guessers out there hoping that Edward and Colin bets are in. This is lap 78. Looking at Colin Bauer into pit row. No tires for Colin Bauer. Joel, what do you think about that?
That's a good move. Colin and Ed just got a splash and go, enough fuel to make it to the end. So they were on pit road a very short time.
Well, they weren't in there very quick at all. So tell us exactly what they did.
I'm thinking they probably did a splash and go, probably 1 can of fuel, about 9 gallons, and that would be all they would need to get to the end of the race.
Now there is a bit of separation. They didn't come out as well as they would have liked to. Eventually, Edward Bray will catch up. And I'm hearing the 77 and the 84.
Got the Jack Watts. Yep. Jack Watts in the pit row right now. Jack Watts and the lap traffic of the 84 of Lee Staples making their way into pit row, this time by Donald Stewart saying he's got a trivia. Well, lay it on us, Donald. Lay it on us as we're watching Jack Watts in a pit row. .21 to go, 14 lead changes, caution free. Not very often we see a Talladega race go caution free there, Joel.
No, we don't normally see caution-free races at Talladega because of the pack racing, and all you got to do is touch another truck or car in the wrong spot, and away you go. And if you got your cameras on Edward Bray and Colin right now, you'll see that Edward is not completely on Colin, pushing him. He's close, but he's not actually touching him, so they don't hook each other.
All right, Donald Stewart. Who was the leader of the team of engineers that invented the safety barrier, also known as the soft wall? Ooh, I know this. It was Mr. Soft Wall. Just kidding you there. All right, Donald Stewart Racing. Who was the leader of the team of engineers that invented the safer barrier, also known as the soft wall? I do not know. That's a pretty deep question right there, Joel. Well, you're a trivia guy, Joel. And I know you can Google this, too. Edward Bray sitting back there doing a great job. Once again, hooked up with Colin Bauer, Jack Watts, Len McNeese, but Paul Pellizier, our current race leader, having yet to pit. Paul Pellizier pushing on the lap traffic of Gary Whitmer Jr. Gary Whitmer Jr. in 7th position, actually 2 laps down along with Lynn McNeese 2 laps down. Kerry Allen Stewart 2 laps down. Looking at our running order, Ronald, walk us through our running order.
So right now you've got Jack Watts out front, Colin Bowers just to his outside. Literally, they could. I take that back. Actually, right now, Paul Pellissier and number 224 of Kevin Scott Nelson are your leaders. I'm sorry, because they have not pitted for their final stop yet. Then you have Jack Watts, Colin Bauer, and Edward Bray.
Kevin Scott Nelson and Paul Pellissier with Kicking Asphalt.
Correct. And Len McNeese is your first car a lap down. He's there with the leaders. And then you've got Gary Whitmer Jr., Barry Allen Stewart, and the rest have taken it to the hauler.
Becky Whitmer answering up Dean Sicking. And I guess Becky was right. So ding, 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 ding for Becky Whitmer. I got a funny story here for you, Ronald, and I know you're going to laugh for me. I was not brought up in a racing world. You know, I know you were with our TK Motorsports real life racing team. Joel's done some pit work out there on the circuits, but me myself never got into it till my late 30s. So I'm only about 6 years in. So a couple of years ago, we went down there to Talladega, and my first day, I did not know what to expect. So, you know, me, you dress for success. So first day, we had our pit passes. I had my long jeans on. This was like the middle of August. I had my long jeans on, no cooler, button-down shirt, and the guy beside me I sit to just kind of looked at me, opens up a cooler, like, you want a beer, dude? Second day, I was in shorts watching Kevin Scott Nelson going into pit road. But the second day, I was in shorts and a true NASCAR fan, I tell you what. Pit row with the number 56 and the number 31. No tires for Kevin Scott Nelson. Colin Bauer, our current race leader. So Edward Bray still in it. Colin Bauer, Jack Watts. Joel had guessed Jack Watts, I do believe. Is that right, Joel?
That's right, but my real guess would have been Edward Bray, but he was picked before y'all asked me.
So, Ronald, I asked you early on, inside lane, outside lane. So right now I'm going to ask you again, with 15 laps to go, inside lane, outside lane.
Outside lane.
So you think Edward Lane and Collins in a good spot?
Yep.
You think Lynn McNeese is the proverbial screwed puppy?
Yep.
I don't know. I got faith in Little Smokey.
I think he's going to stay with him, but the outside lane can control this race. I mean, the inside lane can too, but I don't. The outside lane can control it better than the inside lane can.
Alrighty, how are we coming on that one last trivia question? You said you were going to find something to stump him.
What is the maximum seating capacity of Talladega Superspeedway?
Good question. Now, does that include the guys that come? Does that include the guys that jump up and sit on the catch fence?
Oh, what's that, Joel?
I said, you want to clarify that? Are you speaking actual seats or the capacity of persons that can be at Talladega?
Talladega is the longest NASCAR oval. Like the Daytona International Speedway, Talladega had a seating capacity of blank, although its current capacity is blank. So what is the current seating capacity Talladega Superspeedway?
So that doesn't include the guys that sit on the catch fence.
No, does not.
Nice.
That will be the final trivia question of the night. As we're coming to lap 90, we're on at lap 89. What do you think, Joel?
Donald Stewart guessing 175,000.
I'm going to say 125,000 seats.
I'm going to guess low
I'm
at about
seeing the
42.
correct. You did guess low. Donald Stewart and Becky Whitmer are both correct. It was 175,000 seats, but they knocked it down to 80,000 seats.
That's still a lot of people.
Whole lot of people. So Joel Guy, we're coming down. We've got just under 10 laps to go. Where do you want to be?
I want to be on the outside, and I want Edward Bray behind me because I know what Edward's going to do. He's going to hook bumpers, and that truck will blow before he gets off of him.
That's kind of the way that I see it too. It's right now I feel it's Colin Bauer's race to lose if he side drafts properly and keeps that inside lane pinned down on the last lap, doesn't let him arc out in the corner, especially going into 3 and 4. That outside lane will prevail, especially coming off of turn 4. But we'll see. It's all in the hands of the two guys in the front right now.
All right, Ronald, before we get too much further into this race, tell us a little bit about your activities on Wednesday. I'm going to give you a little bit of a plug right here on Wednesday.
So Wednesday is our week 2 of our summer short track series. We raced at Concord Speedway Wednesday. Edward Bray was your winner. Paul Pellizier came in second, and Joel Guy came in third. It was a great night of racing. Went by very quickly. We were in there for just under an hour of actual race time. I mean, actual race time was actually like 42 minutes. So we did our 125 laps, I believe, in about 42 minutes with 2 cautions. We're off to Thompson Motor Speedway this week in the K&N Pro Impala, I believe it is. So it should be a real good race. Another short track, another 100 or so laps, probably another about an hour.
All right, well, you're taking us to places that where we haven't really gone and cars we haven't really driven. Tell us about some of the variety we're going to be looking at on Wednesday.
So last Wednesday we were in the SK Modifieds, and this week we're going to be, like I said, in the K&N Pro. It's basically the highest performance level of the late model. It's just under some of the NASCAR, what some of the NASCAR cars are capable of. You'll see us running in the Legend cars, which are like the old throwback 30s and 40s sedans and whatnot, but they're I believe they're 1/3 scale instead of full size. They run in real life. They have them in real life. They run motorcycle engines in them, anywhere from 600 cc's all the way up to 1200 cc's. They may be even more now.
Nice.
We'll be in the trucks, a different truck for one of the races. We'll be in the Impala B for one of the races. So we're really mixing it up. We're not running the same car every week. This is kind of one of those deals where we're going to see who the best driver is, who can drive a multitude of cars against varying racetracks that, like you said, that we don't normally go to. And then in addition to that, they're very short. They're very short racetracks. Average laps are 20 seconds and under. I think Concord we were running 15 seconds, and places like Thompson and whatnot will be right around 20 seconds.
Nice. That'll also put KMA TV on that grid 6 nights a week. Now, last night, Ronald, or actually I was last night, On Thursday, you attempted 1080. How did that work out for you?
The computer is capable of it, but it just did not seem to have the quality that it needed. I don't think that I have the upload rate. My internet service itself, I just don't think the upload rate can handle it. So I think I'm just gonna do it in. I'm gonna do it in 720 and change a few settings, and it'll be a nice clear picture in 720.
All righty, very good job. All right, fans, let's get involved. We'll have 94 over 100. Let's get our fans revved up, geared up. And Becky Whitmer talking about poor Edward being pinned in. I don't know. I'm not going to count Edward out. All right, talk to me, Donald Stewart. Talk to me, Kelly Ryerson. We've got our picks in for the night. But I tell you what, Edward Bray, Colin Bauer, doing a great job out here. Jack Watts.
I don't really think that Edward Bray is pinned in. Edward Bray is a team player. Colin Bauer is a KMA member. He's a KMA teammate. Edward Bray will always push a teammate to the win, especially when there's a rival team beside him. So
Yeah, I would not want to be Jack Watts.
well, my point is that, Becky said that he's pinned in, but in reality, if he really wanted to, he could back off a little bit off of Colin Bauer and get a run to his outside, pass him on the outside, and force him to push Edward or fight back and forth. Edward's not going to do that. Edward's going to stay hooked up to the bumper of the number 14, and we're gonna find out who the winner is going to be here in about 2.5 laps.
Jack Watts, Colin Bauer, Edward Bray, Kevin Scott Nelson, Paul Pellizier, our top 5. Then
Pay close attention. I don't know if anybody was watching there, but Edward Bray's been sticking the nose out. He's been backing off of Colin Bauer a lot. Len McNeese has been up on Jack Watts a lot closer than Edward Bray has, and that was so Edward could cool the truck off. He's getting ready. He's going to put the bumper, like Joel said, he's going to put the bumper right up there on Colin, and he's going to stay locked on him probably for the next lap and a half.
Kelly Ryerson rooting on for Colin.
Kelly Ryerson did pick Colin for the win, so I would expect to see Edward coming up to that bumper here very shortly, and as Joel
Big
pointed
back
out,
off.
he's not going to let go.
He's backed off. He's not going to go anywhere. What he's doing
saving
is
his
he's
stuff.
backed off to cool off, and when he comes across the line at lap 99, he'll be on Colin's bumper, and that's where he'll stay until they cross the line on lap 100.
And I think you're going to see it right now because we're coming to lap 99. There won't be a definite advantage. It's going to be interesting to see if the number 14 pins the outside lane down.
Edward Bray looking very sharp out there in the black Talon. Big shout out there to Gearhead Paint Shop. Keeping Edward looking very sharp. Jack Watts in the Southeast Motorsports running a over-the-top paints and designs. Big shout out there to John Hedrick. Big shout out there to GW Graphics. Gary Whitmer, unfortunately, 3 laps down. All right, I'm showing lap 98 of 100. 2 to go, 21, lap 99. All right, Joel, take us through this last lap.
They are on the last lap right now on my screen, and Edward's getting up to him, and he's going to be pushing hard here in just a minute. They're still door handle to door handle.
Jack Watts with the move up. Colin Bauer, a little bit of a block contact. No, say it isn't so. I don't know who's going to win this. I think it might be Colin spinning across that line.
I don't know. I don't know if Colin can get going.
Oh my goodness, not the finish we had hoped for. Edward Bray limping to the finish line.
Definitely not.
Oh, there's a smoker up there in front. Is that Colin Bauer smoking?
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know who won tonight. That was I'm gonna go back and look at that on the replay because I want to see exactly what happened. While you guys figure out our positioning. All right, but here we go. On the replay, Joel, we're looking at Jack Watts moved up into that outside lane. The number 14 taking the number 77 into a 3-wide spot. I'm thinking the 77 possibly drifted up into the 14, but I can't tell. Now, Lemon East was a lap traffic. Colin Bauer out there in front. Jack Watts, I'm thinking, was that Jack Watts that rolled across that line first?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, Jack Watts rolled across the line first, but he did come up into the 14.
All right, so we're looking at Jack Watts as our winner.
Yeah, Jack Watts is the winner, Colin Bauer second, and Edward Bray third.
All righty.
Yeah, Colin Bauer went to make a move to the outside. I'm going to watch it one last time.
All right, we're going to go on and get these drivers down here. So I need Colin down here in the booth. And I need Jack Watts in the booth. And I need Edward Bray here in the booth. All right, Joel, so you're saying Edward Bray was third place, correct?
That's correct.
Edward, you got a copy.
Hey, how's it going?
Crazy finish, but caution free. What a wild ending.
Yeah, it was a wild ending. I mean, I was pushing the heck. I was doing my practicing what I was gonna do with Colin, and I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I was pushing him where he was in the lead, first place. So I was trying to get all my marks ready to go. I knew exactly where to put the truck, where to push him at, how to get my speed to get him in front of Jack, and yeah, I tried. But hey, top three, that's good for me.
All righty, I tell you what a great night out here tonight. But I tell you what, that was pretty wicked ending. Caution free tonight, a couple of bumper hooks, but overall a great night.
Yeah, overall everybody did a great night tonight. Awesome job to everybody that raced tonight.
All right, Joel, take on second place.
Got real quick logo.
All
Yep,
right,
yep.
Colin. Tell us how you got to second place in this race and how you plan to try to win it.
Well, got to thank Ed when to finish second without him. Almost wrecked him there at the beginning unintentionally, but we worked hard throughout the entire day, had good strategy, and I don't know, like Ed was saying, we were just trying to time it right, and the cars just didn't fall the way we needed it to.
Okay, you got anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Got to thank you guys for putting this on. It's been a little while since I run with you guys, but definitely got to thank you guys. Thank Ed, and congrats to Jack.
Okay, well, congratulations on second place, and we'll catch you at the next race.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Ronald, I'll let you talk to Jack.
Jack Watts, got a copy, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait to finish there, sir. Talk us through that last lap.
This is one race that I'm not happy I won because apparently I wrecked the 14. I thought I gave him enough room, and I was blocking him, of course, at the end, but I didn't mean to go up and wreck him. So I'm kind of bummed out about that. It's like I even told these guys, just take the win. I mean, I don't want to wreck somebody to win. I want to win it right.
Oh, that's understandable. We saw it in the replay, and it looked like good hard racing, and there was some contact there. You can go back and watch it and decide for yourself. but nevertheless, sometimes luck plays a factor. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. We watched you guys kind of tangle, and you all four went into the wall and spun, and somehow you managed to get it going. Colin was down in the grass trying to get it going, and Edward got it turned around and got across the finish line. You guys managed to all finish the race. Talk to me about the rest of the race. We didn't have a lot of cars out here tonight, but we had a fair amount, and boy, it just seemed after that first green flag pit stop, the whole dynamic of the race just changed drastically.
Yeah, it got everybody split up. The race was good. I mean, running with Ed and Colin, that was a lot of fun, but I mean, it's obvious. The only reason I won this race, not because of the crash, was Lynn. It was all Lynn. I mean, that guy pushed me. I picked him up because he had no damage. I owe the guy one, and I tried to get him up there as far as I could, but he's the guy who won this race. I was just the guy in front of him.
Copy that. Well, talk to me real quick about Southeast Motorsports and that lightning paint job you've got there.
Southeast Motorsports, just my team, and I got this painted by Doug Turner. Just a team I'm really happy to be with. They make me drive harder over my head to where I can learn and be a better driver.
Well, I've raced with you on many occasions, and I know that you're a clean driver. Know that the words that you spoke, in them, anybody can take that to heart, that you would not want to win a race this way, but it happened. Unfortunate incidents happen, and it's always a pleasure seeing you out here racing. I always enjoy racing against you. You're always one of the cleaner drivers, so just take it as it is. Anybody you like to give a shout out to?
My team, Southeast Motorsports, first and foremost. Next, Lynn. I mean, this is two. I owe this guy two. I picked him up because I owed him one from before. He helped me win before, so I picked him up this time, trying to get him back on the lead lap. Unfortunately, I guess look at it either way. No cautions came out, so he didn't get his lap back, which is good, but I'm trying to help that guy out, so it was all up to him, and thanks to KMA for putting this on. I mean, it's a good time when we come over here.
Alrighty. Well, congratulations on a first place finish, winning the race here on Slammin' Saturday, and hope to see you Monday at Indianapolis.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Alrighty, Joel, I want to thank you for joining us up in the booth.
Well, I appreciate you letting me get in the booth with you, Scott. And this race was reminiscent of Richard Petty and David Pearson at Daytona on the last lap.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, Ronald, good job on the trivia, and I'm going to let you walk us out while we put up those results.
Thought we saw some great racing tonight. First time I've seen us go caution free in quite some time on a super speedway, so that was interesting. Tough breaks for a few drivers, a lot of heartbreak. I know that last lap Colin Bauer was poised for the win, especially with Edward Bray on his outside. These things do happen. I mean, they happen in real life. Drivers aren't perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Still interesting. It was still interesting to see who was going to cross the finish line first, even though they wrecked. Would have been interesting if the guys further back actually could have passed them, but they were so far back they weren't able to. So a lot of great racing, hard racing, a little bit of drama at the end. I don't think you can ask for more than that.
Alrighty, I am Scott, he is Ronald, and we had Joel joining us tonight. Alright folks, we are out of here. This is KMA TV, and we'll catch you again on Monday night at Indianapolis in the Xfinity class.